Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, and this is my Devil May Cry series perspective. And I have the jacket because, one, it's similar to Dante, and two, some of the games really have problems that really deserve the jacket. And I also kind of had a sword that I could use that kind of looked like the one Dante has, so yeah, I'm gonna use that shit. Oh. We're good. Yeah, we're good. So, I did this video because I was going through the Devil May Cry series on the recommendation of Reaver, of Jill Sandwiches, and I'm really glad I did that because actually the first Devil May Cry game that I played was 5. I'm like, okay, let's kind of see how this is. I like action games, and I want to kind of know what it's about. And at first, since that was the first one, I didn't notice all the kind of stuff that was going on in it. I'm just like, okay, this is kind of weird. Alright, kind of fun combat wise, though I didn't like certain character style and kind of gravitated more towards Dante's. But overall, I was like, alright, what's kind of going on with this? Then I saw that Xbox at one point had a deal for pretty much the HD collection and Devil May Cry for the special edition. And I'm like, alright, cool. It was like $22.50 or whatnot. And I'm like, for 4 games? Alright, let's kind of see how this kind of works. So then I kind of did a replay kind of thing and went in the order of 3, 1, 4, 2, and 5. And, oh boy, this was an interesting kind of journey. And I didn't expect some of the takes that I would have with it, and some of the issues, and then how it kind of broadly even kind of started to encapsulate Capcom's overall strategy for certain franchises as well. Because I also played through the Resident Evil series as well on Reaver's recommendation, and I started noticing distressing kind of patterns on not Comcast, on Capcom's part in regards to their franchises. And I'm going to kind of pull those kind of in as I kind of go through what's going on here. Because you see with that Devil May Cry, you see it with Resident Evil, you see it with the Dead Rising series, you see that also kind of with Monster Hunter. So, I played through technically the first one, which is Devil May Cry 3, prequel-wise, because that's set first, even though that's the third game that they needed to do. And I liked Dante as a character, and granted, this overall story was pretty interesting. However, how you kind of interact with it was kind of my issue, I guess. Where I'm like, okay, I like Dante just being a flippant 20-something dude who's just like, fuck my brother. He's making this kind of giant-ass tower thing. Because he wants power and shit. And it's like, okay, cool. So then we start going through. And my biggest kind of enemy with this game is the camera. Because when you see like a usual kind of controller, you got the left stick to move and the right stick is the camera. But in an action game, you usually use the face buttons for your actions. So the thing is, you then have to pick something. Are you going to fight and dodge and potentially not know what's going on, and the camera move in such a certain way that it will allow an enemy on screen to look at you even though you're like, hey, stay off screen so that way you don't come and get me, asshole. And that kind of shit happened a lot with me. I'm like, I understand that I'm getting older as a gamer and that my reflexes are not as good as they used to be when I was younger. However, there does get to a certain point when you're like, that shouldn't have happened because the camera shouldn't have fucking either put me to be like, hey, why is it looking up there? And then it just lets enough peek through that somebody can come and like shellac my ass. And I'm like, hey, I'm full on good with getting my hit taken. Especially with like Virgil's kind of battles and the boss battles at the end. I'm like, okay, yeah, Virgil got me before I was able to like look at videos and understand how to completely and utterly have my own kind of like smackdown with that motherfucker. And it's just like, and trying to make sure you have the right kind of load out. Now, granted, I understand where it was timeline-wise, it was made in kind of like the early 2000s. And you have to keep going back and forth to kind of switching out your kind of stuff, which thankfully the later ones in this series are like, hey, that shit's on you. And, or, well, granted, you still have to kind of do a loadout, but you can still kind of switch shit easier on the fly. Here, you're just like, alright, cool. Sometimes you might not have the exact thing you need. So that's kind of Metroidvania kind of style. I don't really have that much of a problem with that. And you're kind of going through, it's not as hard to try and figure out where to go on certain things. You're still trying to figure out how to get to certain things, utilize certain puzzles and everything. Not completely like the easiest kind of puzzles that you've got that sometimes you'd have nowadays. Now, granted, I understand that like certain games nowadays, they are like a giant butt ton of content, and you are like, how long do we want them to play this kind of thing? As long as possible. So you either make them like head scratchingly hard, or like you put in a fuck ton of them set to the easiest difficulty possible. This kind of balances it out. We get some kind of cool weapons with Dante through this, but usually I kind of focused on certain ones for like certain bosses, because we get to the end and we see that, of course, Lady, we're introduced to kind of her backstory as her father Arkham is pretty much trying to become God. And like, strongest there is. Basic kind of trope on that. It's like, I'm gonna be a demon god, baby, and that's why I killed your mother and shit. And she's like, fuck you. It's like, yes, that is the correct response. And he's pretty much trying to like fuck over Virgil, even though Virgil tried to fuck him over. He's like, yeah, I'm not dead. So we kind of start going through. We see Dante getting through all these kind of perils and being a stylish asshole as he's doing it. I mean, shit, he fucking surfed a goddamn rocket. Was fired from a rocket launcher from Lady. Yeah, he knows what he's fucking doing. And we see that he gets introduced with his devil trigger state by getting stabbed through with his sword rebellion. And that becomes important later on for the fifth one. Yeah. So we see him dealing with all this kind of stuff. Now, granted, weapons-wise, the only one that I really didn't use at all was, like, Nevin. I only used it for the fucking stupid combat adjudicators. Sweet Jesus. I was able to get through those because sometimes I, like, hunt for achievements and all that kind of stuff. And also, if it's a collectible that's going to, like, help me out, like, I don't know, give me health and shit, yeah, I try and prioritize that as much as possible. Though, granted, sometimes you need to, like, go through this game to, like, get enough orbs to get the skills that'll allow you to kind of do that stuff, so that way you can pretty much optimize yourself to, like, be butt-kicking Dante as much as possible. Let's see. Cerberus was kind of cool. The Agni one was kind of interesting. Beowulf really helped me out a lot with, like, the later ones with dealing with the Doppelganger and Virgil. And most of these boss battles were decent to me. Some were a little bit easier than others, but overall there wasn't one that really got complete. No, there were some that, like, get stupid. Like, if you figure out how to deal with it, it kind of works. Now, granted, that doesn't help in certain instances when you don't have the capabilities to get to certain things. Beowulf's one, that's just a slog, because for some ungodly reason, they decide, hey, guess what? Here's a boss rush place. It's like, sweet Jesus. Now, granted, yes, you could technically get through the thing by doing just, like, the bare minimum to figure him out, but the thing is, Beowulf's one of them. I'm like, fuck you, man. So I decided to, like, link up with certain ones. Like, there was this one, Leviathan's Heart. That one can just go get fucked. I mean, granted, it's easy, but it's not really as dynamic and more irksome than anything. Nevin's one also gets irksome and tiresome with her fucking grabby and take your health and make yourself heal back up fucking shit. Doppelganger one was fun when you figure out how to utilize pretty much the Cerberus nunchucks to pretty much get the whole area lit up, and then use Beowulf to just ram the shit out of him. Yeah. Big worm dude kind of floating thing. That one, interesting. I mean, like, easy enough that you can deal with. And then also, like, the big Reaper kind of ones. Agni and Ruda. Rudra? Something like that. The Elemental Twins. Yeah, they're decent, but it gets kind of nutty trying to, like, work their asses out for me. I'm like, alright, fine. Horse one, okay. That one was cool to have, like, a callback in the 5th one. And then we get to Virgil. Holy fucking shit. I was beating my head against the wall on certain things with trying to figure him out. But then, when I was, after I was doing the boss rush a lot of times and pretty much getting my strategies on straight, since I was pretty much getting out all of the styles to be leveled up, and then also grinding red orbs to get certain things powered up and everything, so that way I could just get the achievements as well. Virgil's one, trying to get his patterns down suck, because when you're first doing it, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? How do I fight this giant douche? But then, when you start looking it up and figuring out how his attack patterns kind of work and figuring it out in the game, you start timing it down to being like a machine, and I tried to do that kind of in the 5th one. I'm like, oh, let's see what kind of callback things are going on here. However, my strategy was pretty much to utilize Beowulf to, like, thunder kick myself to him, rack him out for, like, about 9 hits or whatnot, and also utilizing double trigger, and then backing out. It was probably not the fastest and probably not the coolest, but once I got him down, I think he is the best final boss fight in the whole series. Yeah, I think I could accurately say that. Like, even though he gave me problems, and I still think of him as the asshole cunt that he is, like, fuck that shit. After I got him and got into my groove and figured out how to tactically whoop his ass, it became more fun. And the thing is, I also had to try and figure out how to whoop his ass as fast as possible, because at the end, I had to try and, like, kill 100 demons to get, like, a secret kind of ending thing. And fucking lady, I'm having to fight her for kills, and then the last motherfucker pops up and it's a Reaper thing. I'm like, I don't want to fight Virgil again. No, what did I do? But I was able to get back there, and then I just was able, of course, to figure out and look up some other kind of strategies to kind of get the amount of kills so that way I could get things going on as well as possible. But it was kind of cool to see Dante go through his whole thing, figure out what's going on with his brother being like, hey, screw you, I'm going into the underworld and shit. And then slices at him and then just falls down because everything's kind of going down with the tower and all that. Because they're able to separate the amulets and stuff. And then we see that pretty much Virgil was going after Mundus. And that's important because that links up with 1. So, then we go to what is, interestingly enough, my favorite one out of the bunch. The first Devil May Cry. I did not expect this going in. Now, granted, I've gamed around that time as well, but I never really got into Devil May Cry and Resident Evil when they were first coming out, and those first kind of things. So coming back to this, I was like, alright, let's see how well this works out. And I actually liked it a lot better. It was a action-y Resident Evil kind of game, because Dante's like, hey, yeah, his mother was killed by Mundus. Oh, he's thinking, yeah, he's lost his brother for, like, all that kind of stuff, and then this lady Trish is like, yeah, Malay Island, let's go and do this, that's where Mundus and shit's going on. And then we essentially have, like, a Resident Evil kind of game, where you're going around trying to figure out what's kind of going on. Dante, not as flippant and immature as he was in 3, but definitely well enough to, like, crack jokes at motherfuckers and just, like, whoop wholesale ass. And I just liked it a lot better, because, okay, we got our bosses and everything, and the fixed camera actually helped me out, because I didn't have to worry about utilizing the right thumbstick. I could just move myself around and utilize the action buttons. Now, granted, there are inherent problems with fixed camera angles. If they are not executed properly and you can't see what you need to, you be fucked, alright? And that is not a fun fucking experience in a video game. These help me out to keep track of where I was and what I needed to do and what enemies I needed to take out. Whereas in the other series with the kind of freer camera, where if I had some other kind of spot, like one of like a controller with paddles or whatnot, that I could map different face buttons to there or whatnot, or I don't know, switch out so that way you've got your action buttons on the triggers, and that way I can also utilize the camera. That's a different kind of matter. Here, these camera angles actually worked most of the time. That Griffin fight can go get fucked in the ass with the Coliseum one, because he's fucking sitting up there spamming my ass with fucking electricity and lightning bolts of death and shit, and I'm like, fuck you, you big ass bird. But I still put him in the bucket as the chicken asshole he is. Well, Mundus, who I'm going to be calling Mundi, is like, hey, fuck you, man. So Mundi is just like, I want out, bitch. And Dante's like, no, bitch. And essentially, but we see him going through, Spider fight was kind of interesting, trying to figure out what was going on with there. I kind of didn't like the secret missions and how they were implemented, because in the other ones you're able to like go back to the secret missions and get those done in kind of like your own kind of time frame, whereas granted you could still do this here, but the thing is you still have to go through and finish out the thing, the level that you're in. So I pretty much had to like juggle them, especially when it got nutty, when you're like, hey, kill 3 shadows without dying, because you can't restart. Like if you die and you like come back with trying to like fix that doesn't work. So it's like, alright, let's keep on doing this. Oh, that was a nice kind of callback, as we will see in 5 with that, because I didn't get a lot of this shit until I started playing it. But I like kind of going through, seeing all the different rooms throughout Malay Island, figuring out all the different kind of enemies. The scissors one were interesting, so were the skulls. Shadows were a pain if you were put in a shitty kind of area to deal them, but there wasn't one kind of enemy that I'm like, oh sweet Jesus. That kind of happens more throughout most of the other different kind of games. But you keep going, you fight this Nilo Angelo kind of dude who you learn is pretty much like Virgil. But granted, you don't really get that in the game. That's one of the main things. The story's very simple, but it's executed well enough. If I was playing Devil May Cry 1, like, in a vacuum, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Okay, that amulet's kind of linked with you? What? Is that? Oh, so that's your kind of brother thing. Because that's about as much as the text as you get. It's like, alright. And there's no kind of explanation of why Mundi did this to Virgil, or what that kind of accomplished for him, as you, like, beat his ass. Like, alright. And then we see that Trish also kind of betrays him, but then she tries to help him out, actually, and Mundi's like, hey, fuck you, and she's like, yeah, what you gonna do? There was this one kind of puddle-ass motherfucker that if you got eaten, you had to do another kind of boss thing. It's like, hey, fight one of these older bosses. Fuck you, I didn't want to do that, but alright. This one didn't have any kind of boss rush, which I was thankful for. However, we get to the last final boss battle, and this is the main thing that I really didn't like. All the other rest of the boss battles, I'm like, okay, alright, they weren't giving me completely utterly horrendous trouble like some of the ones that I would have in 3. However, this one was just nuttily designed. Like, you shift into double trigger mode, and you fight Harrier style. It's like, I can't dodge all of this shit, and it's really fucking nutty as you start losing health, and then you get into the next phase, and you don't have a checkpoint or anything. It really should have been, like, one mission where you're fighting Mundi, fucking flying around. Oh, yeah, and then we get the whole thing about fill your soul with light. Yeah, that was just... I get what they were trying to go with that line, but, oh, sweet baby Jesus. That was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of bad. But we fight pretty much Mundi in a weird kind of like statue form. He's shooting shit at us, and then he's like in this kind of strange ass thing where he's like, rah, blah, blah. That's also kind of called back in the 4th one. 4th this time, not the 5th. And so, since there wasn't really a checkpoint and I kept having to, like, refight the same kind of thing over and over again, I just did the Harrier one and utilized all of kind of, like, the devil stars that I had, devil triggered, and just beat the unholy fucking shit out of him in the second one to get that done as fast as possible. I still had some left over that I needed to do as he was doing kind of like that end goal thing, and then you had to fly out on an airplane. I'm like, okay. Granted, that kind of lines up with like, hey, you're in Resident Evil, so this place has to fucking blow up and you gotta fucking run away from it. So that trope, I get. It's just like, alright, cool, just do this. And, he for some reason changes the name to Devil Never Cry, and it's like, yeah, jackpot shit. It's like, alright. And then we're not really explained of why it's still Devil May Cry. It's really weird because there's a lot of inconsistencies and character shit that goes on in between all this kind of stuff. There is really no coherent plot or coherent enough character development going on. Because then we get to Devil May Cry 4, and this... Alright. Let me explain my rankings real quick. My rankings of the game... Okay, I was kind of going to try and do this at the end, but... No, we'll get that after this. So, I go to Devil May Cry 4. I'm like, alright, cool. I'm liking Dante. Let's see kind of what other shit and adventures he's got. And it's like, hey! Play as Nero. Who? This fucking kid. Why? Demon arm. Alrighty then, motherfucker. And we fight Dante in the first mission, and I'm just like, alright, interesting tutorial-wise, but like Dante fucking kills a dude in the beginning. Kinda, but not really. And we find out that this religious order is essentially trying to use demon powers and shit to make angels and shit and save the world, but they have to, like, open up the demon hell gate portals to do it, so that way they can control the world by being like, yes, we are your hope and salvation. Alright. And that, of course, puts Nero's love interest, Kyrie, into peril. Now, I am being extremely generous in saying that Kyrie is Nero's love interest. Nero's whole thing here is boiled down to him shouting Kyrie as he's trying to run and find her. Now, granted, a little bit of the beginning is him actually going after Dante and figuring out what the fuck's going on here. But then, of course, Kyrie gets captured in, and that pretty much becomes his whole shit going on. And he just really has not a lot of character development. Now, if you like Nero, that's cool. I think he's got potential. However, they're trying to pretty much be like, hey, we don't know what to do with Dante, so play as this dude instead. Why does that become important? Because of how his character development kind of works into him being kind of Dante light in the 5th one. And Dante just being like kind of crazy and kooky. And it's more like they amped up the shit from 3 instead of learning, hey, okay, that was him young, and that works out, and that's cool to kind of see him in the beginning there. But that doesn't jive with what we've seen in Devil May Cry 1, where, yes, he's kind of kooky and stuff, but not, he takes shit seriously enough, and, like, bashes on, like, interestingly enough, I could pretty much compare him to actually Spider-Man. Spider-Man will whip your ass with a motherfucking shit. However, he will also take shit seriously enough to, like, know when to be like, yeah, I'm in game mode. Fuck off, bitch. Damn, I actually didn't really think of that until now. But we see that going on. My whole thing is I do not like Nero's fighting style. It is not fluid enough for me, and it just doesn't jive with me. Because mainly you have this whole thing where you're doing the whole sword to rev it up, and it's like, okay, I have to go, like, run around to kind of do this, so I don't really do it that much, and then using the arm to kind of, like, grab people and shit, so you don't really have a dodge thing unless you're locked on, which here I have kind of similar camera moments and shit going on from the third one. Not to the same extent, but still it goes on where it's like, I gotta do the face buttons, but I can't see what's going on. Oh, I got smacked and shit. It's like, alright, fine, cool, whatever. Just hit me, asshole. So, we get to a point where, like, Nero just keeps screaming about Kyrie, and then we finally get to a point where he fights Dante again, and that fucking sucks because the only thing worse than, like, being Dante fighting Virgil is being Nero fighting Dante with all this fucking shit. It's like, I never wanted to do this! And that was a bear and a half. But then, we switched to Dante playing. And, listen, this game is competent enough. It's complete. It works. However, they just fucking copy and pasted. Like, there aren't really a lot of bosses in this game. You just you fight the same bosses multiple fucking times. You get another boss rush at the end, but not just, like, I gotta try to accurately explain this. You fight through these bosses as Nero, and then you go through all of the same fucking areas again as Dante. Now, granted, I like playing as Dante. However, I don't get any other bosses except I'm just like, oh yeah, if I had played these bosses before and you just give me Dante's story, I'd been fucking fine with this. Because Dante's just like, yeah, I gotta stop these demons and shit. And I'm like, that is a simple plot, but that works for Dante, and he just has fun and does shit while he's beating demon ass. Where's this game wrong? I understand trying to introduce other kind of complex issues, like a religious order that's pretty much doing shady ass shit and is going to unleash literal hell upon the earth. Except you could do that with also Dante and have a better character than Nero, because he is just chasing the plot object that is Kyrie. That is it. She is, like, she sings, and for some reason she's got feelings for Nero, and that is the fucking extent of that cardboard cutout that Nero wants. Like, she is a plot object that is just there to drive Nero to be like, I will fight this order. Would you fight them even if there was no Kyrie? Say, I don't know, they're just trying to unleash hell on Earth. I don't know. Why? Because the writers didn't fucking think of it. That tracks. Especially with Capcom. So, we go through and we fight pretty much reskins in certain instances of bosses. Like, we fight this fucking ice toad and shit. And we do it as Nero. And then we fight another ice toad that's got red dangly naked women instead of blue dangly naked women. Yeah. And then we fight kind of like the same similar styles and everything as they're trying to figure out what's going on. And we see that the dude that Dante supposedly killed isn't dead, instead becoming more demon, like, just like, ugh. And then everybody else is like demoned up and like, we're angels. It's like, are you sure about that, motherfucker? Because you're a goddamn bug and you look kind of fucked up. Like, we see Kyrie, like, we had Nero fighting Kyrie's brother because we had to have those reasons. And we have weird boob physics here. Now, granted, I don't mind, like, boob physics and shit like that. It's just, it got to, like, a weird uncanny valley kind of thing of, like, you ever notice when a song is just off enough and you're just like, I don't know if it should be at that kind of pitch or that range or whatnot. You're like, okay, that note's fucking off. That's what I felt here. And the thing is, there are instances where they're just zoomed in on it and it's like, yeah, it's not like I'm just going out of my way to be like, yes, look at that frame or that boob is in that corner, and it's just like fucking, oh, no. It's granted, it's never gone to that point where I'm like, hey, that boob's kind of sentient and trying to fucking, like, kill someone or something. Though that would actually have been a kind of better and actually more coherent story than what was going on here. Because it's not really fun having, like, Nero being like, I'm gonna go after Dante. Everybody took Kyrie. Alright, fucking stop with the Jon Snowing stuff, even though this was made before Jon Snow. I'm like, yes, I understand. It's just my point of reference. It's like, God damn it, Nero. So yes, there's a lot of weird shit here. Like, I'm on, alright, fine, cool. So, we got that going on. Let's see, story, Kyrie, plot object, Dante being nutty as shit. He's not completely nutty as shit. They amp that shit up kind of more in Devil May Cry 5. How it's made, you just keep going through most of the stuff. You then do a fucking boss rush, and then you fight the same Sanctus dude again, and that one was just like, wow. I did not like these final boss battles here, so that's kind of telling of what's going on. However, they're not the worst offenders. Let's see. Oh, also, fuck that blade portion with that fucking spinning blade. That is a real okay. Camera angles. You want to talk camera angles? All right, motherfucker. Oh my lord. Okay. Devil May Cry 1 is how it's supposed to be done, well executed, now granted, barring some inconsistency. This is what happens when it's poorly executed and you're trying to use a time mechanic to jump up to this thing and find out which door actually is fucking working on and which one's not working out either. What in the Fraggle Rockin' fuck was going on with that one? Yeah, Nero gets her and it's like, hey, yay, we're cool. Gets her out of there. We had a boss rush. He's got to do a boss rush thing at the end. Dante has to fight this fucking statue like Mundi again. And fuck that thing, because there's some weird ass shit going on with trying to like crack the fucking things. I'm going around at the end with his fucking health bar, because I'm thinking the only way I'm able to fucking hit the damn thing is to shoot it with my guns. And that is taking the longest motherfucking time possible. And I didn't even figure out that you're able to like smack his shit to like actually like kill him faster. I'm like, whatever, because this isn't communicated. What else is the fucking deal? And Sanctus is just like, whatever, fucking end it. And him and Kyrie are like, alright, cool. And Dante has to be like, alright, let's just get this shit done with, like, Trish and Lady. And it's like, alright, cool. So, now we move on to the infamous Devil May Cry 2. This game sucks. Alright? And there's a lot of reasons for that and why I would put 4 above it, but not by much. 4 was just incoherent fucking shit going on. It's like, alright, cool, we want our own kind of... We want to make a new Dante. Why the fuck do you want to make a new Dante when you could just actually fucking finish his story? Because that's too much work? Ah, yes, see, Resident Evil. The only one in Resident Evil that got a finished story at this point is Ethan Winters in 2 games. Yes, that is insanity. But hey, big woman. Alright, let's see. This game is not probably it's not one of the worst, because I have actually played certain games that have been like actually broken and you can't really play them. This game is not technically broken. However, it has shit balancing. It is just fucking incoherent story-wise. Like, I could argue that there really isn't a plot. At least one actually conveyed throughout the story. There's certain things that, like, happen, but the ordering and the context are, like, fucking, like, nuked into oblivion in certain instances where I'm like, I actually don't care what's going on. Like, Dante is not Dante. It definitely felt like somebody's like, I'm going to make a Devil May Cry game. Like, I'm surprised Devil May Cry survived this game. Alright? Like, they put it out, and it's like, hey, yeah, I'm like, hey, make Dante without him being Dante. Alright? I'm, like, after playing through this, I'm surprised there was a 3, 4, 5, and whatever the fuck else they're going to do with this series. Good luck with that. It's just going to be going on with what's been going on with Capcom. Now, granted, I have read and seen other videos kind of explaining the story of what's going on. However, in what's going on with the game, I'm like, Dante is trying to stop this Arius Corporation demon dude from just destroying this island and the world. Okay, we get really, like, the biggest motivation is that Arius wanted to be king. Holy shit, the voice acting in this was just fucking horrendous and hilarious because it is so fucking bad. And that Lucia wants to stop him because she was made by him, though you don't really even get much of the context for that. She just fucking literally plot shits it out at some point because we need some kind of drama. Dante is just... It almost gets to a certain point where I think that Dante didn't even need to be in this game. Like, if you'd made this Lucia's story, or, however you say her name, granted, I didn't even really care enough about her character to really even remember her name, it would have been better. It's just like, hey, we had a good kind of hit with the first Devil May Cry. Make another Dante game. We don't like Dante. We probably even never even played this game because we're the B team. Just fucking do it. It's like, okay, his quips really aren't that good. He, for some reason, flips a coin to figure out shit, kind of like Two-Face. I'm like, why the fuck is he doing this? And he just does shit. It's like, alright, cool. I need the Arcana. When was this fucking talked about? Why is that coin one of it? Whatever. The guns are overpowered to an inordinate degree. Like, you could go around and just not do the combo system, which kind of defeats the purpose of trying to be like an action game if you're not going to do combos. I could literally make that into a... It's kind of third person. Just like a shooter. Like, he would just shoot shit. And the enemy designs are just shit. And fucking spongy, tanky motherfuckers. Like, no. It was not fun to fight things. Especially, like, zombie tanks and zombie helicopters. Since this series never really gets them again, I'm like, why the fuck is this going on? Like, there's no in-story explanation. It's like, hey, here you go. It's like, alright. Oh, and Double Trigger is fucking overpowered as shit. You're just like, zzz, I am Palpatine. Double Palpatine. Well, Palpatine and Devil Palpatine are pretty much the same, but I think it's just trying to figure out where his fucking power level is. But he goes, and it's like, shit, fuck me. Yeah. Yeah, and then the bosses are just pains, but not for the you're fighting the game to actually fight the bosses, and it's just like, oh god, I've never played a game that has disinterested me so much in playing it. Like, to the point of, like, it's not even fun to hate on it. It's not even fun to, like, it's not even, like, I don't hate play things. Sometimes I do it to just test my mettle to figure out what's going on. I.e. the Dark Souls game. Figured out that I have no fun with them whatsoever, and I'm not playing those kinds of games again. This was just completely like, I found a game where I'm like, yeah, I don't need to play this. And it's just, ugh. Now, if you like this game, more power to you. Any of these games your favorite and you're like, that's cool, man. I got no problem with that. However, there are problems with this thing. It's like, holy fuck, man. So you're getting through them, and then you get one of the worst kind of boss rushers possible, where they literally just smack them together, and you can literally just find the spot where they can't hit you and shoot at them until they die. That is shit design, that is not fun, and that is stupid. Like, it's like the laziest possible thing. And the thing is, I understand that they were probably crunching, like, we gotta have some kind of boss to get before the other boss. I'm like, I get that, but you could probably do something that kind of is like a Two-Phase or whatnot. Not take all these bosses that you did that. It's like, I really have a feeling that was like executives and shit being like, we just gotta get this shit done, so just fucking do it. And then the last boss, I didn't even really give a shit about trying to fight fairly as possible. I just double triggered and fucking went, ugh. And it's like, whoosh. It's like, dead. Alright, cool. And then Dante's like, hey, yeah, I gotta go close this. So you're gonna be in hell? Yeah. And then that's where that ends. And then, See, the thing is, I don't know timeline-wise how this kind of fucking thing works out. Now, granted, I know there's all different kinds of orders this shit has been placed in, but I don't know how Dante got out of hell to get into, like, Devil May Cry 5. It's not really fucking explained. They just, like, ignore the fucking shit out of it, and they're like, yep, best case scenario with this motherfucker. That's, like, delete that shit from the canon. The game doesn't exist. Fuck it. And Devil May Cry 5 would be kind of my middle one, because Dante probably plays the best here because of, like, all the kind of modern kind of game design that you got with how he can fluidly change between all different kinds of styles. All the different kind of weapons are actually pretty kind of cool. Nero is more of a character, but he's essentially more Dante light, and they essentially kind of pony off the seriousness a little bit from Dante, where he's more amped up to be more jokey, like what people would kind of like talk about with like the MCU, and kind of just making somebody more jokey than they need to be or whatnot. It's like or Destiny, where you see Cade go from like, hey, I make jokes, to I am nothing but jokes. Now, granted, Dante does have some of his serious moments, but like, he gets screwed over with certain shit, and Nero's just like, yeah, alright, I'm gonna fight this. And the whole conceit is that Virgil's body's dying, and he's decided, hey, I need the Yamato, because Nero is his kid, and he had that pretty much in his arm for his kind of like devil trigger kind of shit in the fourth one, and he fucking chops off his arm and then goes off and does adventures. And the thing is, this is the worst case of utilizing a story, because this is also unclear as well, because you start doing flashbacks and everything and going backwards and forwards. You play as Nero, Dante, and V, and I swear to God, there's like, yeah, V's probably Virgil. It's like, yep. Called that pretty much as soon as you pretty much see him speaking about Virgil's name in the one cutscene. They drug that mystery out way too far. Now, I'd probably go with Dante, V, and then Nero as like order, like 1, 2, and 3. Even though V, you're essentially just like, hey, I'm a caster dude, using Shadow and Griffin and this nightmare thing to like fight things as I stay in the back. There's the one that I could consistently get pretty much like S ranking kind of shit going through with. Though as I started getting better kind of stuff with Dante, I was able to. So they do at least split enough of it up that you can juggle all three pretty well. The bosses are pretty decent, except for like the giant fucking scarab ass one that Nero's got to fight. That one just is a fucking slog that I'm like, it's not hard, it's just tedious, and I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Kick your knees out, take you on the top. Take your knees out, take you on the top. Yes, I know that sounds stupid and weird, but I'm kind of tired. I'm tired talking about it. That's fucking stupid. Goliath was interesting. I did like the kind of horse rider one. That was actually a pretty kind of cool callback to Devil May Cry 3's one. Dante gets a giant motorcycle as an attack thing. I wasn't able to utilize his Beowulf kind of shit to fight Virgil, which was irritating as fuck towards the end. Trying to fight Virgil as Dante really, I had to start trying to, again, figuring out kind of stuff before trying to utilize Royal Guard. That one was a pain. That was more of a pain than Devil May Cry 3, because I was able to actually get into a groove where I'm like, alright, I kind of got this. Whereas I still never really didn't get that kind of groove, even going back through on kind of like normal Devil Hunter difficulty. And then Nero trying to fight Virgil, that one was a bitch, mainly because the game doesn't fucking tell you outright where the devil trigger is for him, because you're going through as Dante, it's like, oh, left bumper's devil trigger. Not for Nero, you gotta use the D-pad for that shit. What? When was this fucking told to me? Assholes? You just gave me devil trigger with this dude just here. But we see that, for some reason, Virgil's body was pretty much getting fucked up. Never mind the fact that I don't know where the fuck he came from, or how the fuck he made Nero to begin with, because, hey, that's just important plot details, my friend, and important character shit. However, he has decided to take the Yamato from Nero, and then stabs it into himself, and that is somehow able to separate his demon and human halves. I don't know why it would do this, because this was helped to usually make portals and shit, and then teleport other places. Oh, and the Urzen stuff, I'm like, okay, I get trying to train stuff, but it's like, hey, we're just keep getting our asses kicked. Once is enough to get him into a credible threat. If you keep doing it, it kind of gets fucking annoying. So, we also see that Dante kind of gets fucked up, but then he's like, hey, my Sword Rebellion was destroyed. He got stabbed with it. I wonder what this does. To unlock kind of like his super kind of devil trigger. I'm like, why do these things happen? Why, like, oh, plot convenience, because they need this to happen and need these explanations. So we get Nero pretty much doing we get him having some fucking beef with Dante because we called him dead weight. It's like, you don't have your demon armor and demon powers, so... Yeah, I think it was mainly to make artificial conflict between the two, which is stupid. And then the other kind of annoying bit is that Nico is making, like, these robotic arms for Nero to use, which I barely even used. I only used it for certain things that I needed to either get to certain places or do certain things. And then otherwise, in most battles, I didn't fucking use it because I don't fucking like Nero's playstyle. But still, I had to beat my head against a wall to pretty much try and get through it because I'm like, alright, Nero, whatever, just do your shit. Nico is annoying as shit. I don't understand what they were trying to do with her design-wise, character-wise. She's just annoying because she's, like, always there doing her stuff, and it's just like, I don't like you as a character. And it's pretty bad when I'm like, I just wish Kyria was doing shit like this. Like, she didn't annoy me because, yeah, she's just in the background and, well, like, just with certain kind of phone calls and shit that Nero makes to pretty much do what he needs to do. It's just like, whatever. So, Virgil pretty much makes this giant kind of tree thing, Clyfoth, and needs it for power. That's pretty much it. It's like he utilizes human blood to make this giant blood thing that he eats as Urizen, and it doesn't even really power him enough to do anything. It's really kind of a letdown. It's like, you did all this for that? Like, it didn't really even, like, do anything visible enough. I'm like, whatever. Fuck this shit. So then, V pretty much comes back. She's like, we're gonna reintegrate you, dumb fucker. And then he's like, yeah, I'm back. Find me at the top of this bitch, asshole. And then Dante fucking fights Virgil's kind of, shadow shit things. Is like, alright, cool. And then we get the Dante and Virgil fight, which is more of a pain. I mean, granted, you can figure out the kind of stuff, but then it does definitely has similarities to Devil May Cry 3. But he does weirder kind of shit with flying around and all that. And it's like, you asshole. I didn't get to a point where I was able to, like, be as in tune with how to fight him in 3 as with this one. And then at the end, we see that, like, okay, Dante has pretty much relayed, hey, yeah, I don't want you to fight Virgil because he's your dad, and I don't want you to have to kill your dad because I gotta fucking deal with this evil asshole myself. And then Nero's like, I'm not gonna let this happen. And he's like, I'm gonna stop these assholes. And I'm like, Virgil? He made a tree that fed on human blood, and he ate some kind of weird-ass fruit, and he's like, haha, I am evil dick lord. Now, I understand trying to help people. Go up to him once and be like, why you keep doing this? Because this is the second tower fucked up thing he ever fucking did, and he needs at least some kind of damn thing. And you'd be like, no. And if he did that, then you thunder kick his ass back into the underworld and say, fuck you, stay there, fuck off. Like, you don't have to kill his ass, but you could at least punt him into the fucking void of crap and just be like, hey, fuck no. I mean, sure, help family as much as possible, but he's moved to multiple genocides, so yeah, fuck him. You can't really, like, they try and make him better because he's got a fan base, but I'm just like, yeah, he's got a cool look, he's got a cool style, and he's got a cool sword, but he is a murdering dick shit fucknut, and he can go fuck off with Mundi. So he, for some reason, is able to regrow his arm and introduce his devil trigger. It's never explained why. It's not even really fucking attempted. It just fucking happens because he needs it to stop these two a-holes from killing each other. Even though we've seen that it takes a lot of, like, I don't even know if they can kill each other. because they're pretty much the polar opposites, yin yang kind of shit. It's like immovable force, unstoppable force, immovable object kind of stuff. I mean, they fucking stabbed each other so many fucking times with the same fucking swords. So he cracks down in his double trigger form. He's like, yeah, I'm going. He bitch slaps Dante. He's like, oh, that almost killed me. I'm like, I understand what you're trying to do, but just because you're a writer and you're trying to be like, yeah, my shit's good, and I'm like, my character's good, you don't have to shit on another character to try and do that. And then Nero fights Virgil, which this one can be an utter joke if you get it to work out correctly. One time I fucking had Virgil kind of like stuck in devil trigger mode, and I was just like, he was just kneeling down on the ground. There's some weird ass shit that goes on with that. But he beats him, and they're like, yeah, we kind of have to like cut this thing off at the roots, and that's an underworld, and if we do that, we're stuck in hell. And the thing is, I didn't really like how Nero's like, I will make you submit. I was like, hey, that sounds like a really shitty thing to do, you asshole. I mean, yeah, granted, my idea of just like punting him into the underworld is kind of like not cool either, but like forcing somebody to be who they're not, that kind of gets into wily territory. So it's like, okay, cool. But they're like, yeah, we got to go down there and do this. And they're like, yeah, the only reason we can do this is because you're up here. So, haha, whatever. They fly down. They fight it off. He's trying to talk to Kyrie, and then he like goes off and fights some shit. And for some reason, because I don't know if it's because they want to utilize red orbs and shit, Nero is able to disappear his fucking arm that he regrew to use the stupid ass devil breaker shit that I never really fucking utilized as he's fighting in the background. And then Nico's like, hey, I thought you'd kill more than that before we go down as Dante and Virgil, and if you kill more demons than Dante, we see some more scenes and shit as they're fighting together, and I'm like, why are they like cool with this? Dante's been like a carefree dude trying to live on the edge and like help people and shit. This dude's killed people and just cared about power. We haven't even really seen him shift his disposition to caring about anybody. I was like, okay, it's cool to see him fighting together. Ooh. So, fuck, man. Alright. We got through all the insanity of all the different games. Ranking order. My favorite would be 1. 1 being at the top, and then we go 3, 5, 4, and 2. And, after this, I'm like, I don't really like this because there's seismic shifts between each game. Because you get the first one, it's like, alright, cool, I like Dante, I like Trish, let's see kind of where this goes. Devil May Cry 2. No plot, fucked up gameplay? Yeah, no thanks. 3, okay, Dante's working out pretty well, just need to work on stuff with like certain camera controls and everything. Good final boss. Let's see kind of where this goes. 4, we don't like, we want to do Nero as the new Dante. I don't care about that. 5, keeping on doing that. God damn it. Alright, cool. Alright, if you're not doing the characters and the kind of style and the gameplay that I like, fine, cool, I'm good. And here's the thing. If you like that direction, and you like this series, continue to play. That's cool. Support them with what you want, with your money, and what you want to do, and your playtime. That's cool. Never hate on that. But this, I'm like, no. And they've done the same thing to Resident Evil. They've done the same thing to Dead Rising. And granted, Monster Hunter as a franchise has just been about monster hunting. Story has never been like an important kind of thing on that. So I acknowledge that. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't at least put more effort into it, but have at me. So yeah, this jacket was definitely deserved with like a lot of the elements. Like the only 2 ones that I'm like okay with are like 1 and 3. And there's certain aspects and elements that I like sprinkled out through all the other ones. And the thing is, I could have reviewed each one individually, but I kind of liked doing this with like a series perspective to kind of get it so you can understand how Dante's like, yeah, okay, I kind of got this. I'm serious, but I got my shit going on here in 1. And then in 3, we see that he's more jokey, more carefree, and like, oh, fuck, my brother's doing some weird ass shit. I gotta go take care of this. 4, it's just like, we want you to like Nero. Why? Because he just shouts Kyrie all the time. Oh, thanks. Now I've got that fucking song stuck in my head all the goddamn time because of how many times he says Kyrie. Fuck that. 2. Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. 5. Here's a mishmash of pretty much most of the problems, except this game technically works and can be really fun with certain things if you like certain things. Never mind the story, never mind the characters, they're going to change between each iteration. And that pretty much happens throughout most of it. I'm not saying you need a complete and consistent team going throughout all the different kind of stuff, but you've got to watch out for that. Because guess what? There are other franchises and other kind of things that this happens to under Capcom, but also under Halo. Like, after Bungie was gone, 343 has been all over the place with what's been going on with, like, 4, between 5, between Halo Infinite, which is 6. And you're like, alright, cool. Just, if you're not going to be consistent in trying to do those kind of things, I don't know why I'm here. So, I thought calling this a perspective would be a little bit better, since it does have my own kind of review kind of stuff for it, but it's like, bigger kind of spread and trying to figure it out and slotting things into places. So that's my perspective on the Devil May Cry series. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. What games you like, what games you don't like, what you like about characters, what you don't like, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, all that kind of stuff. And like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.